Rafi's Rambles, Rafi's Rambles, Rafi's Rambles.
And I'm here today to talk about the finding the perfection in imperfect art techniques. Pretty much to push yourself outside of your comfort zone, and because we all have this perceived notion of what it means to do perfect art, and we can be pretty self-critical about that. And the idea is to push past that and let yourself go a little crazy on your art and without having any restrictions. In a room full of creative people, and I am feeling like a charlatan who is going to try to talk about creativity. So bear with me. I tend to ramble on and go off on tangents. So if you find that I'm going on a tangent, just raise your hand and tell me, back to the point. A lot of artists and a lot of aspiring artists, a lot of times even taking their stuff and making a career out of it is debilitating because of the idea of perfectionism. Like, it's almost like you don't want to show your stuff until it's perfect. Yeah. And the thing about it is that as far as my philosophy goes, there is no such thing as the concept of perfect. Let me take this off. For the most part, a lot of us want to go to an art teacher so that we learn something, even like an art class. We want to learn because there are techniques that are proven, working techniques. I always tell people, if you're going to take an art class and see and get to know the other artists that are in the class, and if you really like your teacher, awesome. If not, don't worry about it. They're just one person. Just because they are a teacher in this field doesn't necessarily mean that they know everything that there is to know about the field. Yeah, I drew a picture of my Miss Peterson, who was not a very nice teacher. I got sent down to the office. It's later on when you get to sit there and talk to an artist who's actually making a living with their art, that then you can have a conversation. And even with them, even with me, take everything with a grain of salt, because this is my perspective. I am a hermit who works at home. Nobody's going to be able to tell you, like, hey, do this, you know, or do this, because I have been able to create a career where both me and my wife are self-supporting, full-time artists. And we've done that for the last 10 years, completely through trial and error, by making mistakes, by bumping along, by being dumb sometimes.
Because life is an imperfect art.
Yeah. This is part of a series I call Chaos and Harmony. And the first time that I created a piece like that, it was showing at the warehouse of the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, right? Big show. My first thing ever as an artist, and I was terrified, and the only reason that I entered the show was because a friend of mine submitted the piece. As I was going in, and they accepted my work, and it was hanging up, one of my friends looked at my piece and said, "Oh, it's got your fingerprints all over it." I could not wait for it to dry, so it had fingerprints all over it. So this piece does not, because now I know. So it was my first show, and now there's fingerprints on this piece, and I froze up during the whole show. All these Chicago-style art people, you know, with the little round glasses and the boas are coming by, and this is beautiful. All I'm doing is sitting there, terrified. The only relief that I got, which was horrifying to me, but was my dad. My dad is not a high society art guy. My dad is an old Cuban hillbilly. So he showed up for some reason with a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, and then went around and looked at the nudie paintings and said, "That's art." And looked at mine and slapped it a few times and said, "This one looks like throw up a little bit."
Your dad did that?
Yeah, Dad is the reason that I really don't care what anybody thinks about me. I have YouTube followers that adore us. They watch our channel and they're like, "We don't like your work, but we like you." And I'm like, "All right, cool," you know? I don't care if people think I'm talented. I just don't. I just care about creating something that somebody connects with.
Get your feelings out.
Exactly, because that's all art is. Art is just another form of communication. And if you're not saying something, and it doesn't matter what it is, it's like writing a poem. This piece here sat in my studio for about a year and a half and looked nothing like this. And the reason that it sat in my studio for about a year and a half was because I was asked to do a live painting. Like, oh, we're doing this event, you could do a live painting. So I went in there to do a live painting, and I started working on something that I typically don't work on. A beautiful woman in a blue dress with long wavy hair holding a glass of wine. For me, a lot of my art symbolizes something internal, something that has to do with feeling. That particular painting didn't symbolize anything. It didn't really have the oomph or the feeling that really gets you across that threshold of creativity, which is, oh my God, I have a great idea. Oh, my idea sucks, I suck. If you don't have something additional pushing yourself past the I suck period, you won't actually get the piece done. So with this piece, it sat there, and it wasn't until I decided to push myself outside of my comfort zone and look at the piece itself. Now, if I turn it this way, you may be able to notice this streak here of texture. That was her hair, yeah. So I took this piece, and instead of looking at the image that was on there and what I was trying to finish and what I had been working on and off for a year and a half, and looked at the texture, I saw something else.
I like that better.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's what perfectionism keeps us from trying to do, is to create those happy little accidents, to create something. I would have never, ever come up with the concept of creating this
I like that.
unless it became what it became organically through trial and error, and through finally getting out of my own pigheadedness and stubbornness and saying, wait a second, I don't want to work on this piece. I want to work on something else in creating this. What I recommend to anybody is to constantly question, you know, when you're sitting there and you're struggling, either you're struggling to create something or you're struggling because you're looking at a piece and the self-criticism is setting in and telling you how, you know, you are horrible as an artist and why do you even try, or whatever it is that happens to all of us, because it happens to all of us. We have those moments where we're trying to create something and we have something in our head, and what's coming out
It's not the same.
is not the same. What a lot of artists forget is that you're not seeing with your eyes, you are seeing with your brain, and your brain changes your visual perception of reality. So when you are looking at a piece, you are losing the context of your piece if you are constantly staring at it. It's because you are in it 100%. And you are having that feeling of like, oh, it needs something else. It just needs a little bit more, and it needs a little bit more. Whenever I run into, I need a little bit more, I walk away from the piece. This piece here, some of you like it, some of you do not. This piece was based on the idea of me trying not to be perfect at creating an image. I tried to go more with the feeling. And the feeling of this piece is somebody who is clenched up in deep contemplation.
You know what it looks like to me?
Go ahead.
I know this is terrible.
Oh, come on, Angie.
Looks like she's sitting on the john and she's constipated.
And where else would you be on deep contemplation? Most self-criticism comes from the idea that somebody else, you may be working on something and you're really excited about it, and then immediately you start to think, well, what is somebody else going to think about this? You know, oh, I can't take this to the market, or I can't take this to the gallery because there's another artist there that does amazing portraiture. They're going to look at this and be like, she's sitting on the toilet. That could stop you from feeling that this piece is done. And then you would sit there and agonize over something that you're satisfied with, simply because you think that someone else wouldn't be. So this painting over here has a background scene of one of the city streets in Pensacola. Because I decided that I was going to do a landscape painting. I am not a landscape painter. I don't like doing city streets. I don't like doing landscapes unless they look like an abstract thing with a variation of colors that is a blob that you can't tell what it is. That's what I like to do when I'm doing abstract, when I'm doing landscapes or a beach scene or something like that. I created these beautiful buildings with people walking their dogs and hated every single moment of it. But the reason I was doing it was because somewhere in my brain, I said to myself, this will sell.
Yep.
You know, I gotta do more Pensacola themed stuff so that I can sell it.
Beach
And
balls.
yeah, beach balls and things. No, I already have a block against the beach ball, but I decided I was gonna do this Pensacola scene and it was gonna be avant-garde and all this stuff because nobody does it. I got halfway done and it was looking beautiful and people were even commenting how much they loved it, and I realized that if I sold that piece, that chances are I would get commissioned to do more. Hence that beautiful magical forest of wintry trees that is much simpler.
Was the moon in the background a happy accident?
Yes,
Was that the
absolutely.
moon? Was that supposed to be the moon?
It is
If
now.
you-
Create what you love. Because I mean, that's the whole reason we're creating. Create what you love, what you get excited about. It doesn't matter what you, get whatever you think other people are thinking about your work out of your head. You create what you love. You get as close as possible to creating what it is that you love. There are 7 billion people out on the planet. Chances are that there is a lot of people that are going to love exactly what you love. This is my language. This is what I create. It's the same thing along the lines where people are like, what's your style? I'm like, I don't know.
Rafi?
But, you know, didn't you do that sculpture at Ortel and when Best of Show?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a kind of unique process that you did, and yet it was tree in nature.
Yeah, I like to create. It's not just painting. There are certain things I don't like. I don't like sewing. I don't like crocheting. Not because I haven't tried, but because I've tried and I'm like, I can't do this. If I stuck too much with my perfectionism, I would have never tried to create that sculpture. Ever. Like, why would I try to do that?
That was amazing. Really well.
Thank you. One of the quotes that I have here from Anonymous says, I am nobody. Nobody is perfect, therefore I am perfect. So one of the things that I've done when it comes to my art is just jump right in and go at, create as I go. The same thing is going on with this right now. Every time I have a YouTube channel where I talk and give advice about different things for different artists, and we have a really awesome following of people that ask us a lot of questions. A lot of people think that I script that. I don't, because I find that when you try to make something perfect, you end up hindering the beautiful, happy accidents that happen along the way. All the artwork that you create, that you love, is perfect exactly as it is. And it is when you are trying to accomplish something that someone else does, not what you do, not who you are, that you run into imperfections.